They thought it was just another climb. 9 friends, laughter, confidence, adventure, but they had no idea. They were walking straight into the heart of something, not human. The year was 1959. The Soviet Union was silent in its winter sleep. And deep in the Ural Mountains, a group of hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute prepared for the challenge of their lives. They called it an expedition. But history would call it something else, the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Their leader, Igor Dyatlov, was just 23, smart, determined. He had done dozens of hikes before. The group, all students, knew every inch of the mountains. They had trained for weeks, checked their equipment, and documented every moment in journals and photographs. January 23rd, they boarded a train heading north. Laughter filled the compartment. They sang, joked, even took photos of the snow falling outside. None of them knew. These would be the last pictures they'd ever take. After days of travel, they reached a small village called Vizay. It was the last sign of civilization. Beyond that, only endless snow and silence. Locals warned them. They said the mountain beyond was cursed. They called it Kolatsayakal. In the Mansi language, it meant dead mountain, but the students laughed it off. They didn't believe in curses. They believed in science and skill. On January 31st, they set up their final camp near the foot of the pass. The wind was strong, the air biting cold. They built their tent on the slope instead of the forest below, a mistake that would haunt every theory to come. That night, a storm swept over the mountain. The group huddled together in their tent, writing in their diaries, unaware that the next few hours would become one of the most terrifying mysteries in human history. Days passed. No one heard from them. Weeks later, rescue teams were sent to find them. What they discovered still chills the world today. At the foot of the mountain, the tent was found, torn open from the inside. Inside lay their clothes, shoes, food, untouched. It looked like they had fled in panic. Barefoot, half-dressed, into the freezing storm. Their footprints led into the forest. Some walked calmly, others ran. But then, the tracks just stopped. The first 2 bodies were found under a cedar tree, barefoot, frozen solid. A small fire beside them. Their fingers burned black as if they'd tried to stay alive until the end. 3 more bodies were found scattered between the tree and the tent, as if they were trying to crawl back. But something stopped them. 2 months later, searchers found the rest. They were buried deep under the snow. Their injuries unexplainable. One had a fractured skull. 2 others had broken ribs, and 1 girl was missing her tongue. But here's the strangest part. There were no external wounds. The injuries looked like they'd been hit by an invisible force, stronger than any human hand. Some of their clothes had traces of radiation, and one man's skin was glowing orange. His hair suddenly gray. Theories began to spread like wildfire. The Soviet government called it a tragic accident, but even their reports were redacted. Some believed an avalanche caused the panic, but rescuers found no sign of one. Others whispered about military experiments, secret weapon tests. Even UFOs, because that night, witnesses miles away reported strange glowing lights in the sky. But there was another story, the one locals had always told. They said the mountain spirits were angered, that the hikers disturbed something ancient, something that never wanted to be found. In the hikers' last photos, there's one frame blurred dark. It shows glowing orbs in the distance, figures, too tall to be human. People say those were the last things they saw. The bodies were brought down the mountain in silence. Closed coffins, families weren't allowed to see them. The case was sealed, buried in Soviet archives for decades. But the horror didn't end there. Every rescue worker who visited the site claimed the same thing. Their compasses stopped working. Cameras malfunctioned, and at night, they heard screams echoing across the pass. Even today, more than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass remains one of the coldest mysteries in history. Experts reopened the case in 2019. They used modern science, simulation models, avalanche testing, even forensic AI, but their conclusion was incomplete. They said a small snow slide could have scared them, but none of the physics matched the injuries. And no snow slide could explain the radiation. or the missing eyes, or the tongue. In 2021, one Russian official said quietly, "Some things are better left buried, but locals know the truth. They say the mountain is alive. And when the wind howls over the pass, you can still hear their voices, calling for help, crying in the dark." Some hikers who dared to visit the site years later reported strange lights in the sky. And one group claimed to see shadows moving against the snow, shadows with no source. Their cameras captured faint figures, tall, thin, walking through the blizzard. When they returned home, half of their footage was missing, and the rest distorted by static. It's as if the mountain itself didn't want the truth revealed. The Dyatlov Pass incident isn't just a mystery. It's a warning that some places on Earth don't belong to us, that nature isn't always the only thing watching. The hikers were young, curious, and they believed knowledge could protect them. But there are things out there that science can't explain. Forces older than history, older than light, and sometimes they wake when we step too close. As the snow covers their footprints every winter, the mountain goes silent again, until the wind returns and the voices rise. Because on that cursed slope, the story never ended. It just sleeps beneath the ice, and those who listen closely say they can still hear the tent rip open. The screams fade into the storm, and the mountain whisper one final warning. Don't look for them, because if you do, it might start all over again. This is Haunted Palace, where real history breathes fear, and the dead never rest.